All right. Good morning, guys. So some of the topics that I'm interested in exploring, other than the very ambiguous question of what are human relationships, I think the more particular aspect of human relationships are the student teacher relationships. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you guys the person that has influenced me in my own personal journey. I would say Rilke has inspired me from the inside. And when we encounter people that are inspiring, typically we always find it, we always find somebody that is external. uh, And, but I don't know how else to explain it. But I think you guys might have an idea after I read you guys this first letter from Rilke to a young poet. I thought this first letter is so crucial because nowadays with my channel growing steadily, in numbers, and I start to realize that now more and more people are coming out of the woodwork slowly and wanting advice and wanting some type of guidance, some type of path to pursue. And ironically enough, I made this channel because I was in the same place. But I think reading this letter out loud, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be wonderful for me because I just love reading this letter. It's always such a great reminder to read when you either catch yourself losing inspiration or you catch yourself just not knowing what to do. I like Rilke's indirect way of teaching, but so anyways, let's just get into it, right? Let's get into it. Let's see what Rilke really has to say to this young poet. Okay, letter 1. Dear Sir, your letter arrived just a few days ago. I want to thank you for the great confidence you have placed in me. That is all I can do. I cannot discuss your verses, for any attempt at criticism would be foreign to me. Nothing touches a work of art so little as words of criticism. They always result in more or less fortunate misunderstandings. Things aren't all so tangible and sayable as people would usually have us believe. Most experiences are unsayable. They happen in a space that no word has ever entered, and more unsayable than all other things are works of art. Those mysterious existences whose life endures beside our own small transitory life. With this note as a preface, may I just tell you that your verses have no style of their own. Although they although they do have silent and hidden beginnings of something personal, I feel this most clearly in the last poem, My Soul. There is something of your own something of your own is trying to become word and melody. And in the lovely poem to Leopardi, a kind of kinship with that great solitary figure does perhaps appear. Nevertheless, the poems are not yet anything in themselves, not anything independent. Even the last one and the one to Leopardi, your kind letter which accompanied them, managed to make clear to me various faults that I felt in reading your verses, though I am not able to name them specifically. You ask whether your verses are any good. You ask me. You have asked others before this. You send them to magazines. You compare them with other poems. And you are upset when certain editors reject your work. Now, since you have said you want my advice, I beg you to stop doing that sort of thing. You are looking outside, and that is what you should most avoid right now. No one can advise or help you. No one. There is only one thing you should do. Go into yourself. Find out that reason that commands you to write. See whether it has spread its roots into the very depths of your heart. Confess to yourself whether you would have to die if you were forbidden to write. This most of all, ask yourself in the most silent hour of your night, must I write? Dig into yourself for a deep answer. And if this answer rings out in assent, if you meet this solemn question with a strong, simple I must, then build your life in accordance with this necessity. Your whole life, even into its humblest and most indifferent hour, must become a sign and witness to this impulse. Then come close to nature. Then, as if no one had ever tried before, try to say what you see and feel and love and lose. Don't write love poems. Avoid those forms. They are too facile and ordinary. They are the hardest to work with, and it takes great, fully ripened power to create something individual where good, even glorious traditions exist in abundance. So rescue yourself from these general themes and write about what your everyday life offers you. Describe your sorrows and desires, the thoughts that pass through your mind, and your belief in some kind of beauty. Describe all these with heartfelt, silent, humble sincerity. And when you express yourself, use the things around you, the images from your dreams, and the objects that you remember. If your everyday life seems poor, don't blame it. Blame yourself. Admit to yourself that you are not enough of a poet to call forth its riches, because for the Creator there is no poverty and no poor, indifferent place. And even if you found yourself in some prison whose walls let in none of the world's sounds, wouldn't you still have your childhood, that jewel beyond all price, that treasure house of memories? Turn your attentions to it. Try to raise up the sunken feelings of this enormous past. Your personality will grow stronger. Your solitude will expand and become a place where you can live in twilight, where the noise of other people passes by, far in the distance. And if out of this turning within, out of this immersion in your own world, poems come, then you will not think of asking anyone whether they are good or not, nor will you try to interest magazines in these works, for you will see them as your dear, natural possession, a piece of your life, a voice from it. A work of art is good if it has arisen out of necessity. That is the only way one can judge it. So, dear sir, I can't give you any advice but this, to go into yourself and see how deep that the place is from which your life flows. At its source, you will find the answer to the question whether you must create. Accept that answer just as it is given to you without trying to interpret it. Perhaps you will discover that you are called to be an artist. Then take the destiny upon yourself and bear it, its burden and its greatness, without ever asking what reward might come from outside. For the Creator must be a world for himself and must find everything in himself and in nature to whom his whole life is devoted. But after this descent into yourself, into your solitude, perhaps you will have to renounce becoming a poet. If, as I have said, one feels one could live without writing, then one shouldn't write at all. Nevertheless, even then, this self-searching, that I as of you will not have been for nothing, your life will still find its own paths from there, and that they may be good, rich, and wide is what I wish for you more than I can say. What else can I tell you? It seems to me that everything has its proper emphasis. And finally, I want to add just one more bit of advice: to keep growing silently and earnestly through your through your wild development. You couldn't disturb it any more violently than by looking outside and waiting for outside answers to question that only your innermost feeling and your quietest hour can perhaps answer. It was a pleasure for me to find in your letter the name of Professor Horek, or Harek, oh, I don't know how to pronounce that name, Horacek. I have great reverence for that kind, learned man, and a gratitude that has lasted through the years. Will you please tell him how I feel? It is very good of him to still think of me, and I appreciate it. The poems that you entrusted with me I am sending back to you, and I thank you once more for your questions and sincere trust, of which, by answering as honestly as I can, I have tried to make myself a little worthier than I, as a stranger, really am. Yours very truly, Rainer Maria Rilke. Okay. Um, the reason why I read this whole letter is because it really changed me. As a person, it really changed me as a person that is pursuing knowledge. And I want to reread the very critical advice um, that that Rilke said. He said, right here, he says, "So, dear sir, I can't give you any advice but this: to go into yourself and see how deep the place is from which your life flows. At its source, you will find the answer to the question whether you must create." For me, this is exactly what it means. Um, exactly what it means to be to be a philosopher, to be anything. And I think about, oftentimes I have to think about, why am I doing this? I should probably spend more time writing. Um, I don't know. I really don't know what stops me sometimes about writing. All I know is that I do enjoy. I truly, it's like I do feel exactly what Rilke is saying. Like for me, it's like I can't help but do a video and talk uh, and talk about this. So but what's interesting about this advice that Rilke is saying is that I I realized that there's very clear truth to this advice. Um, and that really ever since I started making videos, I oftentimes I'm not even really looking for advice. I'm not really looking for advice. I'm just I'm just simply I do things out of necessity because I love it. It becomes necessity. Making videos, doing these talks with wonderful people that I've been able to talk to, I do it out of necessity. There's nothing more for me. And oftentimes I'm not even really worried if I'm right or wrong. But funny enough is that when I am in my deepest self, when I am looking within, when I am spending so much time within, it seems truth really reveals itself without me having to do much. All right, so uh, I hope that was something worth thinking about. Uh, you know, I really loved Rilke. This little book, Letters to a Young Poet, has always uh, it really it really struck a chord in me. It really struck a chord in me. I remember reading this for the first time, and I just wanted to um, I just wanted to like crumble. because it hit everything that I had been looking for. you know. So, anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and take care.